The first time I saw Kian Holt, I almost knocked him over with my mop bucket. It was 6:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because the clock on the 34th floor lobby had a loud tick, and I had been listening to it for the past 20 minutes while I cleaned the marble floors of Holt Tower. Nobody came to the 34th floor this early. This floor had the private offices of the Holt family. Senior executives started at 9. The heir, whoever that was, I had never even seen him before. So when the elevator opened and a tall figure walked out with messy hair and a coffee cup in one hand and a phone in the other, I was not ready. My bucket was right in the middle of the hallway. The wheels had no grip on the freshly mopped marble. He stepped right into the path of it. He stumbled. The coffee splashed. He gasped. I dropped the mop handle and grabbed his arm on instinct. We both froze. His hand was gripping my wrist without thinking. My heart was going very fast. He looked at me. I looked at him. He was handsome in a way that made no sense that early in the morning. Sharp jaw, dark eyes, a small coffee stain spreading across his white shirt. He was maybe 23, 24. He did not look like someone who should be on this floor. No suit, no tie, just a soft gray shirt, dark trousers, and hair that had clearly not met a comb. You saved the floor, he said. His voice was calm. I let go of his arm fast. I am so sorry. The bucket. It was my fault. I will get something to clean your shirt. Sir? I am so sorry. It is fine. He looked down at the stain and then back at me. What is your name? I blinked. Nobody on this floor had ever asked me that. Ellie, Eli Sue. I am part of the cleaning staff. I can move faster if I am in your way. I will be done in 10 minutes. He looked at me for a long moment. Not the way people usually looked at me on this floor. Like I was part of the furniture. He looked at me like he was actually thinking about something. Take your time, he said. Then he walked past me toward the corner office at the end of the hall. I stood there for a second. Then I turned back to my bucket. My hands were still shaking a little from the panic of almost knocking over a man who was clearly important. I did not think about him after that. I finished the floor. I took the service elevator down. I clocked in my hours and moved to the next floor. That was a Monday. On Tuesday, he was there again, same time, 6:47. This time he had no coffee. He walked out of the elevator and he stopped when he saw me. He nodded. I nodded back. I moved my bucket out of his way. He went to his office. On Wednesday, he brought 2 coffees. He put one on the small table near the elevator before he walked away. I stared at it. There was a sticky note. It said, "In case yours spills too." I did not know what to do with that. I drank it anyway because it was cold outside, and I had started work at 5, and my thermos had run out. It was good coffee, very good, the kind that cost more than my lunch. On Thursday, I came early on purpose. I told myself it was to get the floor done faster. I did not think too hard about that. He was already there. He was sitting on the floor near the window, which was strange for someone who had an entire private office, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when the elevator opened. He did not seem surprised. "You are early," he said. "You are always early," I said. Then I felt strange for saying it because it meant I had been paying attention to his schedule, which I had not, definitely not. He smiled. It was a small smile, not the polished kind I saw on the framed photos of the Holt family in the lobby downstairs. This one was real. It was quiet and a little crooked, and it did something to my chest that I did not understand. "Kian," he said, like he was introducing himself. "I know who you are," I said before I could stop myself, because I had looked him up on Wednesday night on my phone in my small apartment. Kian Holt, 23, only son of Reeves Holt. Next in line for Holt Industries, worth an estimated $4.2 billion. He raised an eyebrow, and nothing. I pulled my mop out. "Good morning, Mr. Holt." "Kian," he said again, firm and soft at the same time. I did not say it. I started cleaning. But I was very aware that he stayed on the floor by the window for the next 40 minutes, and that he was not really reading his tablet anymore. He was watching me. By the second week, it had become a routine neither of us had agreed to out loud. I showed up at 6:40. He showed up at 6:45. We did not have real conversations. He would say something small. A comment about the weather outside the tall glass windows, a question about how long I had been working at Holt Tower, a remark about the coffee brand changing. And I would answer, short answers, careful answers. The kind you give when you know you are standing on the edge of something and you do not want to fall. I was not stupid. I knew the situation. He was Kian Holt. I was the janitor. Whatever this was, whatever these quiet mornings were, it was not something that had a happy ending. Rich boys got curious about people sometimes. It meant nothing. It would stop. Except it did not stop. On the second Friday, he knocked on the supply closet door. I was refilling cleaning bottles. I opened the door, and he was standing there with two paper bags from the cafe on the ground floor. The one I had never entered because the sandwich there cost $12. Have you eaten? He asked. It is 7 a.m., I said. That is not an answer. I had not eaten. I had missed the bus and run the last 4 blocks to make it on time, and I had not had space to grab anything from home. I am fine, I said. I did not ask if you were fine. He held out one of the bags. I got you the egg and cheese one. Is that okay? I looked at the bag. I looked at him. He looked completely calm, like this was a normal thing. Like billionaire heirs brought breakfast to the cleaning staff every Friday. Why are you doing this? I asked. He thought about it for a second. An honest second, where I could see him actually reaching for the right words. Because I want to, he said. Is that enough of a reason? It was not enough. It was not a safe enough reason. But I was hungry, and the bag smelled incredible. And he was looking at me with those dark eyes that did not have any cruelty in them. And I took the bag. We ate in the hallway near the window. He sat on the floor again. I had stopped being surprised by that. Rich people with beautiful offices chose the floor. I sat a little away from him, my back against the wall, and we ate in a silence that was not uncomfortable. Do you like this job? He asked after a while. It pays rent, I said. That is also not an answer. I looked at him sideways. It is an honest one. He was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do, if you could do anything? Nobody had asked me that in a long time. I almost did not answer, but the egg sandwich was warm, and the morning light was coming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and something about the way he waited, patient, not pushing, made me say it. Illustrations, I draw. I want to do it for books. Children's books, mostly. He turned to look at me fully. Show me. I do not carry my drawings to work. Then bring one on Monday. I am not, this is not. I stopped. I did not know what word I was looking for. I gestured between us. This is strange, you know that? I know, he said. He did not seem bothered by it. You are the heir to a $4.2 billion company. I clean your floors. I know that too. So why? Because you are the most interesting person I have met in this building, he said, simply. Like it was obvious. Everyone up here wants something from me. They smile the right way and say the right things, and they all want access to the name, or the money, or the position. You looked at me like I was blocking your mop path. I almost laughed. I pressed my lips together to stop it. You were blocking my mop path. Exactly. He smiled again. That crooked, quiet smile. You saw me like a person. I cannot tell you how rare that is. I looked away. The city was waking up below us. Tiny cars and tiny people moving through the streets. I thought about what he said, and I felt something crack open very slightly in my chest. Something I did not want to name yet. Monday, I said. I will think about it. He nodded like we had made a deal. On Monday, I brought a drawing. It was a small one. A boy sitting in a window with rain outside, looking at a paper boat on the puddle below. I had done it with ink on thick paper, my best one from last month. I left it folded on the table near the elevator. I did not give it to him face to face because I was not ready for that. When I came back the next day, there was a note where the drawing had been. It said, "This is beautiful. The boy looks lonely. Does the story end well?" I wrote back on a fresh sticky note. I do not know yet. It depends on the rain. I left it on the table. When I came back Wednesday, his reply was there. I hope the rain stays long enough. I held that note for a long time. My hands were not shaking this time. Something else was happening. Something quieter and more dangerous. I was starting to look forward to mornings. That was when I should have been more careful, because on Thursday I was called to the main office on the second floor. My supervisor, Mr. Dane, sat behind his desk with a careful expression. Ellie, he said, have you been spending time on the 34th floor with Key and Holt? The room got very still. I cleaned that floor, I said slowly. Outside of your duties, he said, sitting in the hallways, eating together. I am not accusing you of anything. I am warning you. The Holt family has eyes everywhere in this building. If the senior Mr. Holt, Reeves Holt, hears that his son is spending time with the cleaning staff, it will not go well. For you. I walked out of that office with a tight feeling in my throat. That evening, I made a decision. I would stop. I would go back to being invisible. It was better. It was safer. It was the only thing that made sense. I did not sleep well that night. I stopped going early. I switched my schedule around and told my supervisor I could take the 15th floor in the early morning instead. It was an easy move. Nobody questioned a cleaning staff member rearranging their route. I was professional about it, clean about it. The 34th floor would now be done at 10, when Kian was deep in meetings and would not be standing near any elevator with two paper bags. It worked. For 3 days, it worked perfectly. On the fourth day, the elevator on the 15th floor opened at 10:15 in the morning, and Kian walked out. I stared at him. He looked at me steadily. He had his hands in his pockets, and his sleeves rolled to the elbow, and the same dark eyes that I had been trying very hard not to think about. You changed floors, he said. It is part of the rotation, I said. My voice came out very flat and calm, which I was proud of. The rotation has not changed in 2 years, he said. I asked. That stopped me cold. You asked? I asked the facilities manager. He said the rotation was the same, so you changed it. He was not saying it like an accusation. He was saying it like someone reading a sentence out loud, making sure he understood it correctly. I gripped the mop handle and said nothing. Did I do something wrong? He asked. And here was the thing about Kian Holt. He did not do the rich person thing, where they acted like they could not possibly have done anything wrong. He actually asked. He actually wanted to know. His voice was quiet and careful, and there was something in it that I did not want to be the reason for. No, I said, and that was honest. You did not do anything wrong. Then why? Because this is not good for me. I said it clearly, and I met his eyes when I said it. You are kind, Kian. I believe that. But I have a job to protect. People talk. Your father's people talk. I do not have the safety net that you have. If I lose this job, I lose my apartment. I lose everything. And I cannot afford to lose everything over. I stopped. Over what? He asked. I looked at the wall. Over mornings. He was very quiet. Then he said, what if I could fix that part? You cannot fix that part. You are 23 years old, and your father runs this company. You do not have the power you think you have. Something moved in his face. It was quick, just a flicker, and then it was gone. You are right, he said. About my father. I know I am. He looked at me for one more second, then he pressed the elevator button. I will not come to your floor again, he said. I am sorry I made things difficult. The elevator came. He stepped in. He did not look back. I stood there, in the empty hallway of the 15th floor, and I felt something go cold in my chest, which did not make sense because this was what I had wanted. This was the right ending to a story that should not have started. I finished my shift. I went home. I sat on my small bed in my small apartment, and I opened my sketchbook, and without planning to, I drew him. Not carefully. Just quick lines. A man sitting on a marble floor next to a floor-to-ceiling window, a coffee cup beside him, looking at something just past the edge of the page. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the book. The next morning, there was an envelope at my locker in the staff room. My name was on it in neat handwriting. Inside was a single card. It said, I told HR that the 34th floor needs a permanent assigned cleaner for early mornings, effective next week. I put your name down. Your job is safe. You do not owe me anything. I just wanted you to know that your mornings are yours again. Without the risk, I read it 3 times. Then I put it in my sketchbook between 2 pages, and I sat down on the bench in the staff room. And I thought very hard about what I was going to do, because this was the problem with Kian Holt. He did not push. He did not use his money to pull me closer. He used it to give me back my safety. He used his name to protect me. And that was so much harder to walk away from than anything else he could have done. My coworker Jess came in and saw my face. You look like someone gave you a gift you do not know how to return, she said. That is exactly what happened, I said. She sat beside me. Then maybe you are not supposed to return it, she said. 3 weeks after the locker note, I was back on the 34th floor. I told myself it was because the job assignment was official now, and I was simply doing my work. I told myself that with great confidence every single morning at 6:39 a.m. when I pressed the button for the service elevator going up. Kian did not act strange about it. He came out at 6:45. He said good morning. I said good morning. He did not bring coffee for 2 weeks. He gave me space. He was so careful about it that I started feeling guilty for how careful he was being. On the third week, I put a coffee cup on the table near the elevator. His usual order, I had learned it from the sticky notes. Black, no sugar. He looked at it when he came out. Then he looked at me. I was already mopping the far end of the hall, facing away. I heard him pick it up. Thank you, he said to my back. You helped me keep my job, I said to the wall. It felt right. After that, things shifted again. Slowly, carefully. We talked more during those quiet mornings. I learned that he hated the meetings his father scheduled for him with business partners, who treated him like a logo on a company letterhead. I learned he had studied architecture before his father pulled him into Holt Industries. He had a sketchbook, too. Structural drawings, building ideas he would never build now. He showed me one once. I showed him one of mine. We looked at each other's work in silence, and something felt very even between us. In a way, things between us never felt on paper. Then one Thursday, everything cracked open. I was cleaning near the main conference room, the big glass one on 34 that was usually empty until 9, when I heard voices inside. I was not trying to listen. But the door was not fully closed, and one voice was very loud. The boy is embarrassing himself. That was an older voice, flat, important, running around after a janitor. Do you understand how that looks? The board already has questions about his stability. He is 23. He is allowed. Another voice, younger. A woman. He is the heir. He is not allowed to be a boy. A pause. I want the staff member removed. Reassigned to another building. I do not care how it is done. I stopped moving. The mop was still. My heart was very loud. Father, that was Kian's voice, quiet, cold in a way I had never heard before. If you remove him, I will walk out of this building and I will not come back. Silence. You would throw away everything. I have not thrown away anything, Kian said. He is not a scandal. He is a person. If you cannot see the difference, then the problem is not him. More silence. Longer this time. I did not hear what came next because I made myself walk away. I took the service elevator down. I sat in the staff bathroom on the third floor for a long time, with my back against the cool tile wall and my eyes closed. He had said that. For me, to his father. I did not know whether to feel warm or terrified. I felt both, sitting on top of each other. When I came up at the end of my shift to return the equipment, there was a text on my phone, a number I did not have saved. It said, I know you heard, I am sorry you had to. But I meant it, I typed back slowly. You should not burn things down for me. His reply came fast. What if I want to? I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I typed, that is not a good enough reason, he sent back. Then, give me a better one to stay. I closed my phone. I went home. I did not sleep again. I drew 3 pictures of boys in windows. None of them were lonely this time. All of them were looking at something the viewer could not see. Kian asked me to come to a gallery event. He said it casually, on a Tuesday morning, like it was the most normal thing. There is an architecture and design exhibition this Saturday. A friend's work is up. I want to go, but I hate going to these things alone. He paused. You draw. I thought you might like it. I looked at him for a long time. Your father will hear about it. My father hears about everything, he said. I have decided I do not care anymore. That is easy to say when you are the heir, I said. You still have everything after the fallout. I am the one who disappears. He thought about that. Seriously, he did not brush it off. Okay, he said. Then we go separately, we meet there. No one has to see us arrive together. I just want you to see the art. I should have said no. What time? I said instead. The gallery was in a neighborhood I had never been to. The kind where the buildings had no signs because the people who were supposed to know were already supposed to know. Kian was outside when I arrived. He was wearing a dark jacket and his hair was brushed for once. And he smiled when he saw me in a way that made the very fancy street feel suddenly small. Inside was extraordinary. Huge architectural drawings on white walls, structural models in glass cases, photographs of buildings from angles that made them look like living things. I forgot to be nervous. I just walked. I stood in front of things for minutes at a time, and Kian stood beside me, and neither of us talked much because the work was better than words. At one point, I turned to say something to him, and he was looking at me, not the exhibit. What? I said. Nothing, he said. You just look different when you are looking at things you love. I felt heat rise up my neck. You are supposed to look at the art. I am, he said, and did not explain himself further. We walked for 2 hours. Outside after, we stood on the pavement, and the evening air was cool and sharp. I want to show you something, he said. He took me to a coffee shop 3 streets away. It was small and warm and old, with bookshelves on every wall. He ordered for both of us without asking, and he knew what I drank. I did not know when he had noticed that. We sat by the window. This is my real place, he said, looking around. Not the tower. This is where I go when I need to think. Why did you bring me here? I asked. He was quiet for a moment. He turned his cup in his hands. Because I want you to know me, he said. The real version. Not the air, not the sun, just me. He looked up. Is that okay? Something in my chest pulled tight. That is dangerous, I said softly. I know, for both of us. I know that too. I looked at him across the small table, the bookshelf behind him, the warm light, the street outside going dark. Kian Holt in a soft jacket, holding a coffee cup, looking at me like I was the only clear thing in his world. Tell me something nobody else knows about you, I said. He thought for a second. I used to sleep with the light on until I was 16, he said, because the dark felt like the future, like all the things I had to become, and I was afraid of them. I held that. Are you still afraid? I asked. Less, he said. Lately. I did not ask why, I knew. And the knowing felt like standing on a high place and looking down and deciding, slowly, carefully, that maybe I was brave enough to step forward. 6 weeks after the gallery, a letter arrived at my apartment. I do not know how they got my address, but the envelope was thick and cream colored and had the Holt Industries letterhead in the top corner. Inside was a single page. It was from Reeves Holt, Kian's father. It was polite. Extremely polite. The kind of polite that is also a wall. It said that he understood that I had been spending time with his son. It said that he respected my situation, which was a very smooth way of mentioning that he knew exactly how much I needed my job. It said that he believed I was a person of sense. It said that people of sense understood when a situation was not meant for them. At the bottom, almost like an afterthought, a transfer has been arranged to our partner facility across the city with a 20% pay increase. You would start Monday. No further communication with my son would be expected. I put the letter on my kitchen table. I made tea. I sat with it for 3 hours. He was trying to buy my exit. Cleanly, respectfully, so Kian could not argue with it. It was smart. I had to give him that. I took photos of the letter. I did not know why yet. I just knew I did not want to be the only one with this information. On Wednesday morning, I went up to 34 like normal. Kian was there. He saw my face when I stepped off the elevator, and his whole body changed. What happened? He asked. I did not say anything. I took out my phone and showed him the photo of the letter. He read it once, then again. His jaw was tight. His hands were very still. When he looked up, his eyes were dark in a way I had not seen before. He had no right, he said. His voice was very quiet. That quiet was worse than shouting. He has every right, I said. He is your father. This is his company. You are not a problem to be managed. I know that, I said. But Kian, listen to me. I waited until he was actually listening. I need you to tell me honestly, is this worth it? Because from where I stand, every time I take a step toward you, the cost goes up, and I can handle a lot. But I need to know if you can handle what comes next. Because if your father is doing this now, what does next year look like? What does the next 10 years look like? He looked at me for a long, hard moment. Then he said, I have been thinking about that. And I want to leave the company, he said. The hallway was completely still. Outside, 40 stories down, the city hummed. What? I said. I never wanted it. Architecture, design. That was mine. The company was never mine. It was always something I was told was mine, which is different. He exhaled slowly. I have been talking to a lawyer, separately, about what I own outright, the trust my grandmother left me. It is separate from my father's company. Enough to start something, something real. Kian, I am not doing this for you, he said firmly. I need you to know that. I would be doing this regardless. You are just. He stopped. His voice changed. You are the first person who looked at me and saw a person choosing badly and said so. You did not tell me what I wanted to hear. You told me the truth. And I think I have needed someone to do that for a long time. I could not speak for a moment. My throat was very full. What do you want to do? I said finally. About your father's letter. Nothing, he said. That is what I want you to do. Nothing. Do not transfer. Do not disappear. Let me handle it. How? He looked at me steadily. Trust me for 2 weeks, he said. That is all I am asking. I stood there in the quiet of the 34th floor with the morning light coming through the tall windows, and the mop still in my hand. And I thought about every careful, safe, invisible choice I had made in my life. And then I thought about a boy in a window looking at something just past the edge of the page. 2 weeks, I said. He did it on a Friday. I did not know he was going to do it that day. I was on the 15th floor. I still sometimes covered it. When my phone buzzed, it was Jess from the staff room. The message said, "Turn on the business news." Right now, I could not turn on anything. I was at work. But at noon, on my break, I opened a news site on my phone, and there it was. Asterisk Kian Holt steps down from Holt Industries. Cites personal and professional differences with senior leadership. Plans to pursue independent ventures in sustainable architecture. There was a photo of him walking out of the tower with a box under his arm. Not the front entrance, the side one. He was not wearing a suit. He had on a gray shirt and dark trousers, and his hair was in his eyes. He was not smiling, but he did not look sad either. He looked like someone who had just put down something very heavy. My break ended. I went back to work. I was very professional about it. I mopped 3 floors. I cleaned 2 bathrooms. I refilled 4 supply closets. I did all of this while my heart was doing something very complicated. At 3 p.m., a text. The unsaved number, his number, which I now knew by heart but had never saved because saving it felt too large. It is done. I will be out of the tower by end of day. Can I see you tonight? I typed back. Where? He sent an address. The coffee shop. The small warm one with the bookshelves. I finished my shift. I went home. I changed out of my work clothes, which I had never done before meeting him. I had always shown up as the janitor, in the janitor's clothes, because it felt honest and safe. Tonight, I put on a dark green sweater and clean jeans, and I stood in front of my mirror for a long time. I looked like a person going to see someone. That felt important. He was already there when I arrived. He had a table in the back corner, 2 cups already on the table. He looked up when I walked in, and his whole face changed. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone else would notice, but I noticed. I had learned to read the small geography of his expressions. "You look different," he said. "You look like you just quit a $1 billion company," I said, sitting down. He almost laughed. I did. "How do you feel?" He thought about it honestly. "Like I took off something I had been wearing since I was 12 years old," he said. "Strange. A little cold, but lighter." I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. "What happens now?" "I have a meeting with an architecture firm next week. A small one. They do sustainable housing projects. I sent them some of my designs 3 months ago. They said they were interested." He paused. "I did not tell you because I did not want it to be about you. I needed it to be about me choosing the right thing for me. And now," I said. "Now," he said slowly, "I want it to also be about you." The coffee shop was warm and quiet. Outside, the city was going dark. Somewhere behind me, someone turned on a small lamp and the light shifted. "Ellie," he said, "I know the position we have been in. I know I had all the advantages, and you had all the risk. I know that was not fair. I know I cannot undo that." He was looking at me steadily, fully. "But I am telling you now that I am not the heir anymore. I am just Kian. And Kian wants to know, is there anything here, between us? Because if there is not, I will leave you alone. I will respect it. But I needed to ask, properly." When we were finally standing on equal ground, the whole world was very quiet. I thought about the morning I almost knocked him over with my mop bucket. I thought about sticky notes and paper drawings and a letter in a cream envelope and a man sitting on a marble floor by a window because he preferred the floor to the throne. "There has always been something here," I said. "I just did not know what to do with it." He exhaled, like he had been holding that breath for weeks. "We can figure out what to do with it together," he said. "If you want." I looked at him. This person who had looked at me, not through me, not past me, but at me from the very first morning. "Okay," I said. "Let's figure it out." 6 months later, a children's book was accepted for publication. The story was about a boy who lived very high up in a tall building and had everything except someone to look at the world with. One morning, he saw another boy in the hallway below his window, a boy with a mop and muddy shoes and ink stains on his hands, and he could not stop thinking about him. The story was short. The illustrations were ink on thick paper. The ending was quiet and very warm. The editor said the illustrations were the best part. She said, they felt like someone had drawn them from memory. I told Keon over dinner at his new apartment, smaller than anything I had expected for a Holt, warm and full of architectural sketches pinned to every wall. He looked at the acceptance email on my phone and then back at me, and he did not say anything for a moment. The boy in the window, he said. Yes. Does the story end well? I smiled. It depends on the rain, I said. I told you I hoped the rain would stay long enough, he said. It did, I said. He leaned across the table and I leaned toward him, which we had been doing for 6 months now, slowly, carefully, like two people who understood that good things needed time to build. He was not a perfect person. He was still figuring out how to live without the weight of the Holt name pressing him into a shape. There were hard weeks. There were phone calls from his father that left him quiet for hours. There were nights where the cost of the choices he had made sat heavy. But he always came back to himself, and himself always came back to me. I was still cleaning buildings. I did not quit. I liked the work, honestly. The early mornings, the quiet floors, the city waking up below tall windows. I had picked up illustration work on the side. Small things at first. Book covers, print work, now a full children's book. The rent was still tight, but it was mine, and I had worked for every part of it. Kian's architecture firm had given him a junior position. He went to work every day with rolled up blueprints under his arm and came home with chalk dust on his sleeves. He was building something real. He was happy in a way that I had never seen on his face in those early mornings at Holt Tower. Not the small, quiet, crooked smile, but a full one. Easy. Open. His father had not spoken to him in 4 months. That part was still painful. I knew it was. Kian did not talk about it much, but sometimes I would find him at the window late at night, just looking at the city, and I would stand beside him and not say anything, and that seemed to be enough. One evening I was sketching at the kitchen table, a new illustration for the second book, which the publisher had asked for, and Kian came and looked over my shoulder. The drawing was two boys standing on a high balcony, looking out at a city at night. One had ink on his hands, one had chalk on his sleeves. Are they going to be okay? Kian asked. His chin was resting on top of my head. Yes, I said. How do you know? I put down the pen. I tilted my head back to look at him, upside down, which made him look like he was standing on the ceiling, which made both of us laugh. Because, I said, they already have the hardest part. They have each other. He looked at me for a moment. That look, the one from the 34th floor in the early morning light, the one that had terrified me and pulled at me and stayed with me through every careful choice and every sleepless night. He pressed his lips to my forehead, slow and warm. The rain stayed, he said softly. The rain stayed, I agreed. Outside the window, the city was full of light, and the two boys in the picture, the one with ink hands and the one with chalk sleeves, looked out at all of it together. The boy in the window had his answer. It was yes.